name is Powdthavee. I am a professor in economics at the London School of Economics and University of Melbourne, and I do research for a living on the economics of happiness. Okay, so basically what I do for a living is that we study people's happiness across the globe and across time, and we wanted to see whether if we could collect data on people's happiness, what kind of questions would we like to ask? The questions include, for example, does money make people happy? Are people resilient? Are they happier after they got married, or their happiness decline after the marriage? And that kind of thing. But today at TEDxGhent, I wanted to talk about how we can use data on happiness to basically calculate the values of things that not tradable in the market, things like marriage, social relationship, or death, whether we could place price tags on these kind of events. So for example, if you could imagine that money makes people happy, and it does, if you could also imagine that losing somebody you love makes you incredibly sad, then in principle we can calculate how much additional income would require to compensate for a loss in happiness from a death of your loved one. It sounds very taboo, but it is scientifically attractive. So for example, we did a study which calculated that in order to make somebody who lost someone just as happy as if he or she didn't lose that person, you would require about 380,000 euros to compensate for the loss of happiness. Another example is how much is a friendship worth, and we found that you would need to give somebody 100,000 euros a year to make somebody who has no friends to be just as happy as somebody who has friends and see that friends every day. Marriage is worth about 60,000 euros apparently. So money does make people happy, but often not as much as we think it does. Other things matter to life a lot more, things like social relationship, and spending time with friends have a big boost in happiness. Health, having good health is also have a big effect on happiness. But money does make people happy, yes. The person who inspired me is actually my old PhD supervisor. His name is Professor Andrew Oswald at University of Warwick. He's basically the first economist in the UK to study people's mental health and happiness, kind of breaking the tradition of what you do in the economic studies, basically, because economists, it's such a dry subject. When people talk about economists, they could only think about inflation, unemployment, and income. So he was the first person to look at, the ideology of what makes you happy and what economists think of what makes people happy. Is it really true? So he was my big person who inspired me to do this.